I'm Steve,
I'm Erica,
and
and
we're
we're
the
the
Horror
Horror
Hippies.
Hippies.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is our first interview.
And our first recording.
Yeah, our first actual visual. You can see us now. Isn't
Yes.
she cute? But we decided we kind of wanted to start steering the podcast away from reviews just because enough people do that. And now that we're making our own projects, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right for me personally to like judge other people and then blast that out into the world. Even though we try to be positive. And we
We'll
also,
do some reviews, but
yeah,
we're gonna do more
occasionally.
like interviews, filmmaking process discussions, pitching ideas,
Yeah,
pitching
so
things
this is
like
going to
that.
become more like interviews and motivation and
Mhm.
learning from others and how you can do it yourself.
Mhm.
And then yeah, there's another series I want to do, which is like pitching your dream project. And so I really want to dive in with people and
Yes.
hear what they're passionate about and what they want to see come into this world, you know.
Yes.
But for our first interview, we got to interview the writer and director of Lizzie Lazarus,
Yeah.
Aviv Rubinstein.
A really sweet couple. We met them
And
at Popcorn Frights
you're
and
forgetting half the couple.
oh, sorry. Oh, you didn't say both of them. Should we redo it?
No, no, just keep going.
Leanna O'Shea,
Yeah, who's the star
actress. Yeah.
Bethany in Lizzie Lazarus. And we met them at Popcorn Frights. We both had our world premieres there. And both movies got a really
Yeah.
great reaction and they're just lovely people. They're a
Yeah.
lovely couple.
And their movie comes out Tuesday, January 14th. So check it out.
So, which is
And
probably today if this is,
yeah.
or in the past. Most likely, if you're listening to this, it's in the past. But please go check it out. It's a quirky, uh, fun, interesting, indie horror. I mean, it's just
I mean,
like
character
yeah, character
character
based
driven.
and
So yeah,
a really great premise. And yeah, we love talking to them. There's so much useful information in here.
it's a very long discussion.
It's very
So
long, but we had a blast. And yeah, we think you'll learn a lot, you'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll hit like and subscribe. All right, well, enjoy
thanks for
this
watching.
interview. So today we have our first interview ever. We're really excited because we have such a lovely, amazing, sweet couple that we've met on the festival circuit, who are the creators and writer and director and star of Lizzie Lazarus. So please welcome Aviv Rubinstein and Lianne O'Shea.
Hello, it's us.
Hey
It's
guys.
us. Thanks for having us. Good to
Thanks.
see you.
Yeah.
I felt kind of like a game show host hosting his first episode, like Drew Carey, like
Hello,
I'll get better at
coming to the
that.
stage now. No, I
So
actually have been
formal.
I've been talking a lot about you specifically
Trash
when
talk.
we're yeah,
Yeah.
try, I was like this
Yeah. He's
motherfucker.
like, yes.
No, when we're taught I was we're about to come out with our movie. I think by the time people are able to listen to this, they'll be able to hear the movie or
See
see the movie,
and hear it.
hear it with their eyes. But I've been talking a lot about our premiere screening. We met at Popcorn Frights, which is the best film festival in the world, and that I was like went full imposter syndrome mask off the night before the screening and at the bar with the rest of the filmmakers was like no one's gonna like it and what if it's not horror movie enough or everything else. And then Steven was there, like we had literally just met that day and he's like it's okay man, they're gonna love it, and like patting me on the back and giving me the
And
confidence I needed to
being
Oh,
so cool
yeah,
and kind and supportive and friendly and
yeah.
making
well,
the
thanks.
festival
I,
just
I was
the
probably going through
best.
the same thing. Like, oh man, is our movie horror enough? Is anyone gonna like
Right,
this
yeah,
thing?
right. And turns out both of us were stupid for worrying. And I think like what that encounter with you and with Bobby, who was also at the festival, who said some amazing things about both our films. It's like horror, specifically like horror festivals, they really want you to succeed. Everyone's like rooting for everyone else to succeed, and it's not this sort of like sniping competition sort of vibe.
Yeah.
So
And it was so incredible because that was our world premiere for Old Wounds. And so we had never done anything like that before. And
same.
the reception that we got from Igor and Mark and the support and the love and just everybody there just totally got it and like treated us almost like rock stars. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't feel any sense of competition or, it was all just positive vibes and it was just such a great experience. So how was that for you? Because I know that was kind of near the end of your festival run, right?
No, that was
That
that was our
also
world
our
premiere.
premiere.
Oh, it was the
Yeah,
world
it was
premiere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So
Never
we were,
mind.
well, no worries.
Do
We were
your
all in the
fucking
same boat.
research, Steven.
And it
No,
was
that
well
was
received, so that was
that
awesome.
was our world premiere too, and we were in like a very similar situation to you where we we've both made a handful of movies in the past, but this one felt like our baby in a way that none of the others ever had for me.
Yeah. And it really, like, it was also like we produced it, we self-produced it,
Self-financed,
we
yeah.
financed it. It was
Yeah.
ours more than others had been in the past.
And so I felt a very similar tone to what you're talking about, where when we walked in, Igor and Mark gave us big hugs and they were so excited to see us and introduce us to other people, introduce us to the people at Screenbox who wound up putting out our movie. And
Wow. So
Great.
did that happen at Popcorn Frights then?
yes,
Yes.
Oh,
literally
wow.
yes.
That's awesome.
Um,
Congratulations. Yeah.
and as a direct result of Popcorn Frights too, can't thank them enough for that. And so
That's so great to hear because I think a lot of indie filmmakers and people making horror, that's always kind of the question is like, do festivals mean anything?
yes,
Does this matter?
yes.
Am I going to get anything out of this? And immediately it is resounding yes, it matters.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so weird because you'll hear so much conflicting information about like, oh, only the big fests matter. If you don't get into Sundance or South by Southwest, you might as well not submit to any festivals. Erica, you're nodding your head like you have heard this directly before, right? And like, I'm not Popcorn Frights is a great festival. It is like I hand to heart think it's like the best film festival in the world. But it doesn't have the same name recognition as like Sundance, right?
Yeah.
And yet Slam Dance from a couple years ago like didn't have that many sales. The industry is ever changing and bigger movies are kind of encroaching on these festivals.
Mhm.
And so the advice that we didn't listen to say like if you don't get into a whatever big name fest, you shouldn't even try to sell your movie is horrible advice. And there are people out there, especially in horror, that all they want to do is find cool shit and tell their friends about cool shit.
Yeah.
And there are tastemakers still like Igor and like Mark that have the ear of places like Screenbox and Shudder and all of these like horror specific platforms.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they totally walk the walk, and that's what they were telling us is how they're so committed to that, to supporting new voices, and how they're not going to sell out. And that we need spaces like this because some of those festivals that had been smaller, that had been supporting,
Yeah.
for example, South by,
Yeah.
whatever that was, like 15, 20 years ago, when they basically were the reason the mumblecore movement got
Right.
such
Mhm.
such a push behind
Andrew
it.
Brujowski was my film professor in
Oh,
college.
wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. But it's,
Yeah.
Old Wounds is very much like a mumblecore style movie. And
Yeah.
it's, would they program something like that now? Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but
Well, we found out no, right?
well, they
Yeah.
no,
We also
but
found out
for
no.
us,
We found out no.
We found
Yeah.
out.
They were like, we will not be programming.
And it's also like there's so much competition for such little space, and like I said, the bigger studios are even like kind of the mini major studios like A24 is still considered independent, but they have enough money to make like a 40, 50, 80 million dollar movie, and they have such a great relationship with these long-standing relationship with these festivals that like if A24 is putting out a movie, they kick out someone like us who, I'm not saying that the quality levels are the same, or like they're just like they're unintentionally maybe silencing some of the younger voices that they used to
Yeah.
grow.
And,
I
and I
will
think that happens across all sorts of industries, comics,
totally,
music. There's, I feel like there's a sweet spot where a festival, when it starts, it's cheaper, it's supporting smaller artists, and as it
yeah,
grows, there's a sweet spot between like price and value and who they're supporting, and then it crosses over to then where it's just the big artists. They're just trying to pull in eyes and celebrities and money.
yeah, and it's cyclical, right? So like then a new festival will have to take its place, just like Slam Dance became what Sundance used to be, and that kind
Yeah.
of thing. I will also say double, triple cosign to what you're saying about Igor and Mark at Popcorn Frights Walking the Walk, because the day after we got back from the festival, so I'm back in LA, I'm sitting at this desk.
And the festival is still going on because the
Oh, yeah,
festival was like 12 days long
yeah,
this
the
year.
festival is
Yeah.
still going on. I told him that we were in negotiations with Screenbox. I told Igor this, and Igor called me and was like, "Okay, this is what you say to them. This is like tell them this to get this deal," and like really like
Wow,
rooting
that's awesome.
for all of their like their brothers and sisters and cousins and people who are like part of their festival.
Yeah.
And we've truly felt this way at all the fests that we've played at. Vortex Festival in Rhode Island too were like amazing to us. But like it's just so great to see, because when you know this as well as we do, like when you're making the movie or when you're writing the movie, the circle of the people who get the movie is like 3 people, 2 people big, right? And then when you finally start to like inch it out into the sunlight and other people start to like get the things that you're putting down, it like feels like you have found a, a family member, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because when you
that's
make weird little experimental things, it's, you never know how it's going to reach an audience. So it was really encouraging to see that, A, we got so many people to see the movie that first world premiere. And
Yeah.
then just that it was, we were like, if one person likes it, we'll be
That's
happy.
what we said too. Yeah.
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 Can I ask you about Old Wounds? What's happening with Old Wounds right now?
Sure. Yeah. So we played Popcorn Frights and we won the new Nightmare Prize for Best Debut Feature,
Yeah.
which was
Amazing.
super exciting.
Totally deserved.
And
Thank
we
you.
also just had a cool moment because um, Old Wounds is heavily inspired by Baghead, the Duplass brothers
Yeah.
movie with Greta Gerwig. And so we premiered the same day, right after the star of Baghead premiered his
Birthright.
movie,
Yeah.
Birthright.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, we saw Birthright played right after our movie.
Yeah.
yeah, what a day. That was
Yeah,
a
that's
crazy
A
day.
big
That
day.
was a big
Um,
day.
all the birthday.
And so we had an incredible time. And then we went to Knoxville Horror, which was just like, I mean, just as amazing as Popcorn Frights. And it was one of those moments for us where, I've been going to Fantastic Fest since like 2013 and,
Yeah.
Panic Fest and Unnamed Footage Festival. And, I love being there. I love supporting filmmakers. But, when you're there just as a viewer, you're kind of on the outside looking in and you
Yeah.
like you see what other people have and you're just like, oh man, I just so badly want to be part of that circle. I want to be meeting people and like be a filmmaker. So at Knoxville, we were just surrounded by, Anthony Cousins was there, Jill Gavargizian was there with Ghost Game. We had Cameron Burns there. We had all friends and people that were making stuff, and we were all just hanging out, and we got, hanging out with Elric, and like totally just had that moment of like, we're here, we did it. Like this
Yeah.
we had always strived for, and now like we're living that.
Yeah.
So it was just such a dream come true.
Very rewarding. But yeah, we're trying to do a few more festivals, hopefully in the next few months. And
Yeah, right now we're
distribute
just
it.
waiting for probably like a dozen fests to get back to us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We know that feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we'll hopefully play stuff in the spring. Really hoping Unnamed Footage Festival, which is all found footage,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
that would be perfect.
our
Yeah.
vibe. Um, so
But have you gotten any, am I allowed to ask, have you gotten any
Sure.
offers?
No, I mean, and this is a completely open, honest, real podcast. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love just, sharing that information with people. But no one's reached out to us. It's weird. It's weird. It's not, I don't know how marketable it is because, like Anthony Frogman, you hear
Yeah.
Frogman and you immediately go, well, I got to see the Frogman,
Yeah, right. Right.
you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
you
Lizzie
have
Lazarus
yeah,
has a catchy name too.
you have
I
a
feel like
great
it's like, oh, what
title
does that
and
mean?
immediately that
Thanks.
hook.
we have yeah, we have an okay title. I really like Old Wounds. I like the title, but also like I this is like that grass is always greener thing. Like I think your found footage thing is so cool and marketable and like such a fresh take on a thing that we've seen a million times.
Yeah.
And so like I would be shocked, bowled over if like by this time next year someone hasn't scooped this up.
Well, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can
It's
we
only a matter of time, baby.
yeah, can we do this like weekly or where we
Yeah,
just
totally.
each other up?
Yeah,
Uh,
gas each other up.
and that's
Um,
another thing we're so new to this, and so um, we've shot 3 movies. We've
right.
shot 3 features. Old Wounds is the first one that is finished and out, but we're trying to find different paths. Like you were saying, the industry is constantly shifting and changing, and people that they thought they had a hold on things a year or two ago, everything gets constantly flipped on its head.
Yeah.
Totally different.
So,
Yeah.
So true.
whether you do, Tubi or, a lot of people are like four-walling right now, or like look at like the successes of like Hundreds of Beavers.
Yeah.
And so it's really up in the air. So I don't know. We might try to book screenings on our own and then self-distribute through like indie rights or Film Hub or something.
Mm.
Honestly, not a horrible idea, especially because your hook is so hooky, you know? Um, but yeah, I think we were looking at we four-walled our premiere, which we had to postpone because of the fires in LA, but it turned like it was not the huge money loser that people said that it would be.
I mean, true, we were only doing one night.
That's true. We were only doing one
But
screening. But yeah, I think you funded it yourself, question mark?
hmm
Yeah, we did Indiegogo and then
Awesome.
funded the
Cool.
rest.
hmm
And you're not going to lose your house if it doesn't make
No, I
Yeah.
promised
$40 million.
when we started, I said we will never go into debt making
Yeah.
a movie. And now that we've made 3, my promise for this year is we will no longer spend any of our money making.
Right. That's our thing
See,
now too.
that's great. Like you
Oh.
never went into debt over it. That is awesome.
So yeah, we have a similar thing where we went into a little bit of debt doing this, but not so insurmountable.
Yeah.
And if we so any money that we take in from now on is like found money. Is like, oh man,
Yeah.
we got to make this cool thing. People like it sometimes, and every so often we get a little bit of cash for it.
Yeah.
And like obviously opening doors and all that stuff, that there's stuff so much more valuable than money. Shit, punch my mouth.
Yeah.
Stuff
The
so much more
networking
valuable
and
than
the
money.
people that you meet and everything is so much,
Yeah.
adds so much value because then you have other opportunities and stuff.
So I would love to get into Lizzie Lazarus and just your overall
Yeah.
experience, I guess, starting with festivals. Like, had you done them before, or what did did it, was it what you expected? And what was that whole experience like for you? Did you travel around as much as you could?
For
Definitely traveled.
We
Yeah.
traveled as much as we could. For me personally, I think this was the first thing that wasn't a short film. For I guess first feature that I was so involved with from the beginning that has done festivals. And so that was really cool to be a part of. Like I've acted in projects that have played a lot of festivals before, and I've, because of that, been able to go to like 1 or 2,
Is
but
that for like
only if
the
they're
ones
in
that
LA.
smash?
Yeah.
Yeah. End zone 2,
Yes.
baby.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the Once in Future Smash End Zone was amazing to be a part of, amazing to see what an absolutely incredible festival run those projects had, because they were playing somewhere, it felt like every week
For
for
like
a
a
year.
Yeah.
And it was so cool, so crazy to just be able to share, like, hey, if you're in Scotland, my movie's playing this weekend,
Yeah.
like, or wherever.
Yeah.
And was that cool
You
because
know,
you also like I feel like you found a loophole or a hack because you acted in End Zone 2, but you also are in Once and Future Smash. It's like you did one movie, but you're in two movies.
so that was such a cool project, because for those of you that haven't seen it, Once and Future Smash is a mockumentary about the famous killer from this godfather of all horror movies called End Zone 2. It's hilarious. It's great. You should watch it.
So good.
It's on Tubi, it's on Amazon, it's
YouTube. It's
on
everywhere.
YouTube,
Yeah.
it's all over the place. And I was lucky enough to be asked to be a part of End Zone 2, which was the godfather of all horror movies that was shot in 1970. And so, because I was playing an actor that was supposed to be my age in 1970, I wasn't allowed to talk about it for like 4 years.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Because we were keeping the secret, right? We were like holding back that, like, there was for a little bit at the beginning. It was very fun. We would all, like, share in the group chat, like, this thread on Reddit says they've seen the movie. It's like,
Yeah. There
we're
were
like,
people on Reddit claiming
they
this
haven't,
movie
because we made it up, but like, so that was really, really fun, and such a cool part to have. And I feel so lucky to have been a part of that project that wound up being so much bigger than just what we wound up shooting in our little house in the woods.
And speaking of collaboration, the director of Once and Future Smash and End Zone 2 was on our camera team for Lizzie Lazarus, has been
Yeah.
our friend for
Sophia, who's
over a decade. Sophia
amazing.
Cacciola, and her partner Michael J. Epstein, who is a great director and who I've known for almost 20 years now. And so
And Aviv introduced me to them also, which is,
well, that's not as important as
yeah, but it's just like, it's all connected,
Yeah,
going
right.
back
Yeah.
to talking about, you meet people and you make friends and you're making movies, and you pull them in, and when we're all kind of collaborating to build something together, it's really beautiful.
And I
Yeah.
love to hear that because, when I was in my 20s and really trying to get a start in all of this, I approached it from such the wrong angle. And I think a lot of people
Yeah.
make this mistake, which, like I was saying, when you go to these film festivals, you're looking over and you're seeing like circles, like literal circles of people. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, there's Benson and Moorhead and their team, or there's Cargill and Derrickson and their team. And like you're seeing like creators and their friends and their collaborators. And I kept thinking like I got to get in their circle.
Mhm.
What can I do
Yeah.
to get in their circle? And I think people they try to force it and they'll be like, "Oh, here's my business card." And like
Infiltrate, right?
it's you're like trying to like infiltrate. And in reality, the way you do it is you just focus on like yourself, your goals, what you want to accomplish, and then you slowly pull in friends and collaborators and people that like for me, what really broke it open was I flipped it on its head. I realized I'm asking these people what they can do for me. And
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, that's backwards. I need to be saying, what can I do for you? So I started reaching out to people like Jill with her movie The Stylist. And I had met her at Fantastic Fest and I said, I would love to come help. I'll work for free. I'll do anything. And she said, right, sure. Yeah, come on up to Kansas City. And so I started reaching out to any project on Indiegogo that was raising money. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they're gonna need help. So I started messaging people, hey, do you need help? Hey, and eventually that got me so many jobs and then I
And you build your own circle.
friends and then now we're growing out our circle and yeah, it's
And I
yeah.
love that y'all got to work with friends, because that was our experience too with Old Wounds. And it's just like, it feels like summer camp and it's so much fun.
Yes.
That unique, I don't know. It was really special. But yeah.
Let me tell you a story about. Oh, you met Anna. Okay, so let me tell you a story about Anna. There was a girl. I was teaching at Emerson College in Boston during the pandemic, and I was living with Leanne's parents, my not yet in-laws.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I was teaching this TV writing class, and there was this girl who was, forgive me, Anna, absolutely out of her mind. And
Oh
she
yeah,
would
yeah.
like,
I remember, yeah, seeing her at
You're
the.
like, I remember.
I remember her.
So
Too
cute.
much energy, would do handstands in class, tried to arm wrestle me, would come in and be like, "What's going on, King?" And then after we wrapped the class, every couple months she would email me and be like, "Do you have any work? Do you have any work? Do you have any work?" And it's basically the same thing that you did, Stephen. And so we brought her out for rehearsals to just kind of assist me. And to like we were testing to see like, is she really out of her mind? And and we like wound up after like 2 days of rehearsals, we're like, oh my God, like Anna needs to be on the set. So we brought her out for the crew, and she was the script supervisor, she was the art PA, she did costumes, she did
She was a stunt double
double
at
for the
points.
body
Like
bag.
she just got everyone to rally so hard because she was just like
The
so
go-getter.
fun and positive without being like weird about it. It's just like genuinely who she is.
Yeah.
And we were just,
And
I was
she,
so stoked that she was in Aviv's class and we got to meet her.
and she came down to Popcorn Frights, and so now like
Yeah.
every single thing I do, I want Anna to be on with us because of her attitude, because she's a good hang and she's very talented, and it's like that, like, yeah, building your own circle and meeting, saying yes to people who are like trying to help you.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think also when you were talking about it, I feel like there's we're based in LA and the LA of it all. And also I am an actor. I produce and write now as well, but I started as just an actor. And it's like you get here and everyone's like, you got to network. Gotta get out there and network. And you're like, oh, okay, what do I and you like go to these parties and you're like trying to talk to people and everybody's just kind of like bumbling around talking to each other, trying to network, not really sure what they're doing.
Doing the same thing, right?
And
Like, what can you do for me? How can you help me?
yeah, or like just not really sure where they fit. And I think it now recently has felt like, oh, this is what everyone meant by network. Like it becomes this like ugly word, right? And it's like, oh no, you're just working with your network, your people, like the people that are on your level or like that you've met randomly at some place that you just click with. And that is what
yeah.
makes it so fun and brings that summer camp vibe. And you
And
can
sometimes I
really
think
make amazing stuff.
people confuse that like nepotism,
Yeah.
Yeah.
going around a lot. And it took me a long time to like figure that out in the workplace. I kept thinking like I'm just going to be a great worker and they'll notice. And eventually I realized, oh, they're going to promote and work with the people that they like.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Mhm.
The
whether that's
personality
friends.
hires.
Exactly. And on a movie set, especially something that's low budget, I would much rather have somebody with a great personality who's trying hard, who maybe not doesn't have all of the skills but is learning. I would much
Yeah.
rather have them than an egotistical master, you know?
Yes,
Totally.
Like,
definitely.
yeah.
And that goes for everyone that we worked with on Lizzie Lazarus, including Lianne, who is sitting next to me, but also including Omar Mascati, who plays Eli in the movie. And we lived in Airbnbs together.
Yeah.
And Omar's been on TV shows. He's been on Better Call Saul. He's been on Handmaid's Tale. He was
Yeah.
one of the stars of Good Sam on CBS. And one day we came back, we were living in like the director's house, which is the two of us, Omar, the two PAs, our editor or assistant editor, and Anna, who was our kind of Swiss Army person. And we came back from, I don't know, doing something, and Omar and Leanne were playing cards with the two PAs who were like also former students of mine, and this was like their first project that they've ever worked on. And I pulled them aside and I was like, you are never again in your careers going to have this experience of just like playing cards and shooting the shit with number one and number two on the call sheet.
Yeah.
Just like appreciate this experience.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I hope to bring that to every set I go to.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm like, let's play cards, let's make pancakes, let's
Yeah.
like we're all here to work together to make something cool. So
And
I
you
like
know,
that about
fun
having
time.
like a smaller set too. It's just like you get to know everyone a lot better and
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we were taking like literal like story notes from from other members of the crew, because like, you know, we have this situation where characters are carrying a corpse, and it's very easy in a script to say this character picks up the dead body, but in reality it's like far more difficult. And so like a huge plot point in the movie came because of our sound guy. We had the day off, we were having coffee with our sound guy, and I was like, oh, I'm really worried about like these like picking up the body. He's like, oh, why don't we do this? Boom, change the script, it's all fixed. And like the artificial borders between like the director or the stars and everyone else is like, will make a movie worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I was going to say, Robert, who we had coffee with him when we had that
Who's our sound
conversation
person,
with, who
yeah.
is our sound person, is a writer director in his own right and makes his own projects. So it's like, yes, you might be doing one thing on this movie, but you're doing something entirely different on the next one, which
Yeah.
is really exciting, I think.
yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah, you
Totally.
want to be open to that collaboration. I mean, Anthony is a director, but he grips a lot. And so, yeah, you never
Mhm.
know who on the cast or crew can offer a great idea that could
Mhm.
change something. I mean, Old Wounds is only as good as it is because of Chelsea and Brian and Anthony and everything that they brought to it. And then, you know, having the, you know, you have the ability to recognize that and not
Yeah.
just shut it down. I think a lot of people get too precious and they go, oh, well, this is my movie. And
Yeah.
maybe this is a conversation for another time, but,
No, I
but
think it's I think you're absolutely right.
I,
It's
I
like
think like,
the glory of
yeah.
me becomes more important than the quality of the movie.
And I get when you're Jordan Peele, when you're Quentin Tarantino, I get putting your name on that bad boy. John Carpenter, I get it. But in this world, I see that where people will put their name at the top, and I'm like,
From the twisted mind
yeah,
of a guy you've never heard of.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's I kind of believe in, you know, be the change that you want to see in the world. And
100%.
that's the attitude that we take into everything. And so with like Old Wounds, at the front of the movie, it says a film by, and it lists all five of us. It
That's
was
great.
our whole team was five people. And that's just what I believe because we all collaborated, we all worked on this. And I think I really got that through doing craft services. So when I
Mm.
started on the stylist and Scare Package 2 and my first like five, six, seven things I was doing craft services. And what that allowed me to do was go to every department and it a real like to me everyone was the same. Everyone was equal.
Yeah.
I could go
Yeah.
to the PA, I could go to the director, the star, and hey, here's some food, here's some snacks. What can I do for you? But I treated everybody the same, and I really believe that. I don't think, you know, I'm really inspired by movies like Sing Sing, which paid the same rate
Yes.
to everyone
That
from
was my favorite movie of the year.
Hands
That's
down.
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it yet,
Yeah.
but
Oh, it's very good.
Oh, yeah,
It's
you
so
gotta
good.
see it. It like even like you were saying, they pay everyone the same. It's
You
when
can
you see it, it's just like
you can see it on screen.
yeah.
it's so
But
good.
but I think that that's also like walking the walk. It's not just the right thing to do like from an ethical standpoint. You also can see it on the screen.
Mhm.
It makes the movie better. I have like so many things I want to say about that. My first feature film was also kind of a mumblecore movie about like a band on tour, and it was a team of six. It was like very similar to yours. It just wasn't found footage. It wasn't horror, but it was like the same kind of like team dynamic. And when I was going for distribution, they asked like who it was written by, and I said these six people, and they're like, no, that's too many. And I said, well, what about story by these six people? And they're like, no, that's too many. And the distributor convinced me that it would look amateurish to say that six people contributed to the writing or the story of this movie. And it's like one of my bigger regrets. I think I like changed it on IMDb after the fact. But I was like, but like, yeah, this kind of spirit of collaboration is the only thing that's gonna keep movies alive.
Mm.
And then the other thing I wanted to say about this idea of craft services is one of the reasons that we made Lizzie Lazarus when we did and how we did was because we had a pretty bad experience on the movie that we previously did, which was in Malaysia. And so they have an entirely different film culture there. But as the director, I got my own snack table and no one was allowed to touch my
Oh
snack
no.
Oh,
table.
wow.
And everyone else had to eat like different snacks. And like, I hated it.
It was so
I was
uncomfortable.
so
It was like,
uncomfortable.
take that. No, we don't need that.
Yeah, and because it was like a waste of money. But
Everyone can touch that. It's fine.
yeah, because it like the idea that a director is somehow better than other people deserves to eat first or whatever it is like absolute insanity when in reality everyone is circling around the director, especially if it's like a writer director. Everyone is coming together to help them like create their vision, and so the director should be the most grateful person on set,
Mhm.
Yeah,
not the least.
that's a great perspective. That's how I felt every day. Every day we're on set, I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening, and people are
Yeah.
helping this become a reality.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's a level of there's such a level of just confidence when you like finally figure out who you are and accept that, and you don't feel like you have to pretend or be someone you're not, and you can kind of remove that ego and be open to collaboration or yeah, I don't know. I was going that, but
Well, I was gonna
Yeah,
ask you, oh, sorry, go
oh
ahead.
please.
I was just gonna say, like, with Lizzie Lazarus, you said that your last one in Malaysia, it was a bad experience. Was it just because it was so like big and like different culture, and then really wanted to scale back with Lizzie Lazarus?
A handful of things. There were some
Handful of things. There were
crimes.
a handful of delays and a handful of things that didn't work out. And maybe an easy way to describe it all is maybe like a too many cooks situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because the only set that I've ever felt that I've lost control of and that didn't respect my vision or my authority is the set that gave me my own snacks. Right? Is like it's so weird that like they they really wanted to make everyone look like the thing that they were without actually like being the thing that they were. And I don't think that is like a reflection of the Malaysian film industry. Like they make great movies.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one.
We worked with a lot of great people. It was no, there's a fire engine going by.
Mm.
It was this. It was. Are you circling the house?
Oh no.
It was
No, it's gone.
It was like this specific production and the personalities on it. Tons of egos involved that contributed to this too many cooks situation where and the moment that I like tried to collaborate and listen to other people and that was seen as like a sign of weakness on my
oh wow.
part. And so that actually was like a really tough thing to reckon with because I for a long time had convinced myself that they were right and that I shouldn't have been that collaborative. I shouldn't because it showed weakness and that allowed them to like basically like strip the film away from us. And making Lizzie was such a refreshing. It's the same thing that you said of like finding your people and finding what you want to do the way you want to do it. Cause like we didn't have that problem with Lizzie. I did get to collaborate in a way that I felt was really rewarding for everyone. You can speak to how much of a bastard I was.
No, I obviously love working with you, and I feel like everyone else did too on Lizzie.
Yeah.
And I feel like really did. We did have that very collaborative environment where hopefully everyone felt heard and respected and cared for.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was a really great. I can't believe it. We shot the whole thing in 10 days,
Yeah,
but it was
Wow.
a really great 10 days.
Yeah.
And it restored my faith in like working that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have so much more control over it when it is smaller and like
Yeah.
you get to choose who's there specifically and what roles people are doing.
And it's
That's
great.
true. The other film did have a crew of like 75 people. It was
Yeah.
So much, yeah.
pretty unwieldy. So yeah, the smaller crew, lighter, faster, get to know everybody. So that definitely plays a role in it. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, no, it's great because that's, persistence. I think the greatest strength you can have in this industry is to hang in there. And you didn't
Yeah.
let that experience beat you down. You came back and
I did let it beat me down for a while.
But
but
You
not
got back
so
up.
you
not
resurrected.
Not forever.
Yeah.
It was
Resurrected.
Aviv Lazarus.
Yeah.
Does that have
Uh,
anything to do with the idea for Lizzie Lazarus?
Kind of. So, we had just gotten back from Malaysia from pickup shoots for that movie in February of 2020. And so we then COVID happened, and we had a similar experience to COVID when we were in Malaysia, where we were kind of like isolated in this hotel room for a while and felt really disconnected. We could only speak to our friends and family via the phone or Skype or whatever. And so when COVID happened, immediately we were like, no, it's holy shit, it's happening again. But we were like, we mentally knew what 3 months in lockdown looked like. And so we got jobs. We wanted to be really creative. And this movie started the way most movies projects start with us, which is that we make a list of our limitations and we try to figure out how to turn those limitations into storytelling devices.
Yeah. Generally, we're somewhere having coffee going like, what if?
What if?
What if this? What if that?
And all
What
of a
if
sudden
this?
we get attached to characters or premises. And so it was like May of 2020. We did not know whether we were ever going to be able to shoot indoors again. This was still when outside you had to be, the idea was that you had to be 6 feet apart. And so we're like, okay, how do we tell a story where two characters are 6 feet apart outside the whole time? Obviously they're carrying a dead body
Through the woods.
through the woods. And so why are they carrying a dead body? Who are they to each other? All came from this beginning image of something spooky and supernatural that we could pull off in the situation that we were in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of writers and filmmakers are very ambitious, which is great. Ambition is like the best thing, but they let their ambition get so far ahead of them that they like then are paralyzed when it comes to actually like making the thing. And so that experience, I literally said out loud to you and to several other people that if I don't like, I'm like going to give directing one more try. And if I don't like directing this movie, if I have a similarly horrible experience, I'm just going to not do it anymore, because it was the experience on that other movie was really tough on me. And so luckily we had a great team. We got to work with our friends who we originally wanted to work with in the other movie and then had to let go of. And so it was like us kind of making it up to them, or showing that we still wanted to collaborate with them. So there was a lot of this hurt and this uncertainty that went into the creation of the movie. And then when we got to set, I felt more prepared than I ever have for any movie. It was like a switch flipped.
Well, yeah, I also felt very prepared because of the way we rehearsed for this movie. We rehearsed it like a play. We met for a week, maybe, I think.
Yeah, 5 days.
5 days we did in our producer's backyard, and it was just the three actors, Aviv, our producer Anna, I'm sorry, our producer Veronica, and also Anna. And we just went through the script, and then by the end of the week, we just ran the whole thing in the backyard like a play, carrying a box with a lawn chair in it. And that really enabled us to really dive in on any of the kind of, oh, what are we doing here? What does this thought mean that might have happened on set, happened so much before? And we had all of that time to really dive into it and work on it and try different things when we weren't, wasting our overnight or had a crew waiting to
right.
do the next thing.
And then from a director standpoint, when you're giving your actor notes and there's a whole crew looking at you being like, why can't you do this right?
Yeah.
The stakes are artificially high. You're like wasting time you don't have. I would prefer to do all of my directing before we get to set and basically not talk to the actors
Yeah.
while we're shooting. And I want to also shout out on our final day of rehearsal where they performed the entire movie. They did it basically perfectly. And we invited our composer, Alexandra, to watch, and she started to kind of formulate these musical ideas. And she's also like
She's an incredible artist and storyteller
and
beyond being a musician.
totally
Mhm.
and gave like story notes and what if this and what if that. And so we like tried to be as tried to get out in front of everything as early as possible because we knew that we weren't going to be paying people very much or having a lot of extra time to dick around.
Yeah.
But we did
Well,
wind up reshooting some stuff on
Yeah.
set.
Yeah, just like
Two things.
couple 1-2 things, but not
Mm,
only,
Yeah.
but we didn't do any extra days.
No, we didn't do an extra. So
Yeah.
so we produced this. This is I'm answering a question you didn't ask, but we shot these overnights, and then we had our assistant editor on opposite schedule. So she was hanging out with our dog and and making proxies and dailies while we were all asleep. And so I would wake up at like 2 or 3 or 4 p.m. and then watch the dailies from the day before. And so we could make lists of like, oh man, we didn't get that shot. The makeup wasn't right. The this wasn't right. So we wound up reshooting like 3 things on our last day because we had time, because like we knew exactly what we needed and we had like banged out everything that we wanted ahead of that.
Wow.
So it was
So,
really like very
yeah.
economical.
So there is so much that y'all just said that I just want to dive right into.
But I was going to say
Yeah, go
real
ahead.
quick, I think it's so smart to do that, like rehearsals and the preparation, especially when you have such a short time, but also like with y'all's film, it's so dialogue heavy and so character heavy. And it's like, those things are crucial for that kind of a film.
Yeah, truly. And there's, it knowing your line, it's like silly to say this. Knowing your lines as an actor is so important. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How can you tell the story if you don't know what you're supposed to say? Or and I think
Yeah.
Aviv wrote such a beautiful script for us. It made sense what we were supposed to say when. So once we knew what we were doing, we were able to really just like let it flow.
And
that's what I say.
Frankly, we made a handful of edits in that rehearsal day or in that rehearsal week so that what made it on screen is like we didn't really cut anything out of the movie that wasn't working. Like a couple things here and there like changed, but what you see is what's in the script. I would say 95%
Wow.
of the
Yeah.
time. But we made relatively significant changes during rehearsal that we would have if we had gone and shot it and then edited it and then found out it didn't work and then paid a bunch of money to go back and go back to the woods and relight and like you always got to fix it in the script.
And it's wild to me how many people don't take advantage of pre-production or who don't do rehearsals or just don't figure out stuff in advance. And then on
It's
the
the
day,
cheapest part of production.
yeah. And in our case, the way we've been making movies is we work off of an outline, and because we make found footage, we want it to feel real. So our movies are improvised, but every scene, the whole movie has an outline, and with every
Right.
scene, and every scene has an outline, and then we improvise all the dialogue so that it feels real. But still, in advance, in pre-production, we're having these conversations. Who is the character? We're all what's the backstory? What is,
And
and
you're figuring that out with the actor, which is kind
yeah.
of cool because then it's like a collaboration. Like Chelsea brought so much to that role that you hadn't even thought of. And like, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said about your composer, like when you have a collaborator that excels and can bring something new to your project that you're not expecting or just elevates everything. And really, ultimately, that's the director's job is to surround yourself with talented people and let them do their thing. Um,
I'm so lucky that we
Yes.
have very talented friends. And yeah,
yeah,
our composer and our editor really did bring their own magic to this in a way that I'm like forever thankful for. Our editor,
which
by the way, is Rick Chapman.
Okay.
and it's wild nowadays, like it's with technology and what you can make with so little and you don't need to have 75 people on set. I've been on
Yeah,
plenty of sets where there's 75 plus people and most of them are standing around and I'm just like, what is the point of this?
100%.
I don't and every person you add, now you're adding travel, you're adding lodging, you're adding
Food,
food,
yeah,
and it gets
yeah.
exponential. And so to keep it small. And then I've been on that's seems to be a common thing now with smaller movies is editing while you're filming and then
Yeah.
being able to make adjustments. Because we we our productions are so tight and small, we shoot basically chronological,
Hmm.
so we
We
can
did too.
do
Yeah.
pickups and reshoots along the way,
Hmm.
which, like you said, saves you an immense amount of time and money.
So can I ask you a question about
Sure.
what about all of three of the
Yeah, I
movies?
want to know about the two that haven't come out yet, but I'll let you ask.
So when you're largely improvising, you have this outline, coherence style of like
Love
where
it.
you need to get. Yeah. I
Exactly.
mean, it's the
Yep.
best.
I
It's
love that movie. Yeah.
so are you shooting multiple cameras? And B, are you editing yourself, or are you allowing someone else to do it? It's tough because when you're doing the improvisation, there's like so much more input that the director has for like, oh, I like the direction that this conversation goes versus this take versus that take. So like it would be weird for me if there wasn't a script to like hand it over to somebody else.
Yeah, it's so I edit everything because I also act in everything. And
Yeah,
so it's it's nice because you're in it. So you can help steer things or guide conversations in a way that I know I'm like editing while we're having conversations.
right.
And
Yeah.
so I know like what do we need out of this scene or out of this moment. So that's been very helpful. And also because it's found footage, I'm DPing at the same time. So I'm shooting, I'm getting like the necessary angles we'll need. And so we typically, I mean, sometimes it's one camera. On the last one, we shot this past summer. We shot a movie in secret at Bonnaroo, the music
Hell
festival.
yeah.
Oh, I feel like I remember
Yeah, you're telling us about
you
that.
told us
Yeah,
that, or maybe Brian told us. It
Oh, we
sounded
have
so cool. I was like,
yeah.
that was so fun. We had 5 iPhones,
So
and
everyone had
everyone
an
has like a
iPhone,
different version, so it's gonna be different quality like footage.
but so
like
Perfect.
my iPhone 7
Yeah,
is this one.
and
just like for the
I
character.
yeah, and
Mhm.
I look at every movie as that we do as like part therapy and part experiment. And so
You've seen our movie. You know
yeah,
that I agree
yeah.
with that.
And so it's just been I love found footage, man. It's so freeing. You don't have to worry about like lighting and sound as much. You still have to worry about it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
people are way more forgiving with that format. And so like when we went to Bonnaroo, the five of us, it was Anthony and Rebecca from Frogman and our friend Joe, who's an actor. And so we knew they make stuff. So we were able to trust them. Hey, you two, you go shoot a scene. You go shoot a scene. We'll link back up. We'll shoot a scene together. And so, like, truly just like giving into the process and letting people do their thing and hoping that you catch that lightning in a bottle. Um,
Hmm.
And do you
but
find that there's more storytelling in the editing then?
um, I yes and no. I mean, because we have the character arcs and the whole story kind of has
Hmm.
an arc. That's kind of already in place. But it's the way I look at it is like I go in and I basically just I keep the best stuff. So when I finally got Old Wounds, like I was just cutting out the excess and the things I didn't like. I got it to 2 hours, and I knew that was too long, but I just kept the best stuff. And
Yeah.
so then when I went in, then I could fine tune like, hey, this is a joke just to be a joke. We don't need that. Or hey,
Right.
this is a piece of information the audience doesn't need to know, or that they find out later on. And so I was able to kind of refine it as I went. And so then I went from a point of like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to cut, to then being able to cut another 10 minutes. So it's an hour 50 now, and I'm still like thinking like I'll go back in later and maybe cut out another 5. So yeah, I don't know. And that's been a fun process to see it kind of come to life, because there is an element of just luck, not luck, because we plan. It's more of just you just hope for the best, and
Yeah.
you don't know what you gonna get. I mean, Anthony told me when we were filming Old Wounds, he was like, like this is crazy. Like I could never do this. And like, is this going to be anything?
Yeah.
And I completely get that, because from the outside looking in, it was probably like nobody shoots movies that way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, and what I kind of wanted to talk to you about too, is like how your past experiences influence your present day decision making, and how, nothing is for naught. Like, if you did something you thought, oh, I failed, or I regret that experience, or that movie in Malaysia really sucked, you learn something
It
that
did.
you then
It did.
use on Lizzie Lazarus. And so the only
Yeah.
Totally.
yeah. The only way I'm able to make the movies this way is because I failed for 20 years, where I was making stuff with just myself or with one other person, where I was acting and editing. I was learning every single part of the process, and shooting like improv and in real time, and just the whole, like, just everything. And I thought I was a fuck up. I was like, what
Yeah.
am I doing? Like for the longest time, I thought I was just like failing. And then finally, it all just kind of clicked together. And I was like, oh, wow, I could not make Old Wounds without that 20 years of
Failing. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, kind of related to that, I feel like it's just the confidence that you deserve to be there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The confidence that you have the skills and you deserve to be there, and you're making the thing, and it's a good thing to make.
Yeah.
I want to send you my first movie because I had a very, very similar experience to you on Old Wounds, where I act in it. We totally improved it off of a 25-page outline, like rehearsed on set, 2 DSLRs in 2012 when they were like kind of brand new.
Yeah.
So like similar vibes, totally mumblecore, but not genre. Like it was like a road movie.
Yeah.
And we found about halfway through the movie that the things that were happening to us while we were actually on the road on tour were more interesting than the movie that we had planned. And so the 6 of us like sat in our friend's apartment in Chicago and rewrote the movie that we were in.
Nice.
And it was crazy, but I edited it myself. It took me forever. We had like 1,000 different cuts. And there's a point at which one of our actors, who's like one of our best friends, his name's Dan, like pulled me aside. We were in Wyoming. He's like, I don't know if this is going to be enough footage here. Like maybe this is a short. And like the first cut was like 3.5 hours long.
Yeah. So Aviv and I met in LA, which was after he
After I
had made
shot
this
this, yeah.
movie. And I think relatively early on, he sent me a 3.5 hour cut.
You never saw it.
I never
felt like 3.5 hours.
saw like the first cut, but I saw one cut that was long.
Very long. Yeah.
And it was just really, I mean, from an outsider, it was very cool to be like, oh, look at this cool project.
Yeah.
Is that how
Yeah,
you
I
do?
liked it.
Cool
That's how
project
you
that
knew
is
she
too
was the
long.
one? She watched that
Oh,
3.5 hours.
Leanne was my acting coach. We had to do a pickup scene like 2 years later. Leanne was my acting coach for it.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
That's not how we met, but
That's not how we met. But yeah, I did help him with that one
because
scene.
I cannot
and
act.
rehearsed it.
But
He did a pretty good job.
then
He doesn't like it though.
I don't like my acting, but I'll send it to you. You can all see. It's called The
I
Anchorite.
love that.
That's not the movie I'm here promoting. But I agree with you 1,000% that like everything teaches you, every failed project teaches you something. And I don't think that anything's really a failure unless you like lose your house, right? Unless someone comes to you and says this was the worst decision you've ever made in your life. But I'll also add that like some stuff we did for Lizzie out of spite. So one of the things I like try to challenge myself every movie that I direct, I want to like flex a new muscle or whatever. And so in in Malaysia, that movie like ended in the woods at night, and everyone in the production team convinced me that we had to shoot it against a green screen, and
Uh,
and we wouldn't be able to light the forest at night. It would look like an episode of Scooby Doo, and so like we have to move into the studio to do a green screen, and it's like one of my biggest regrets of my entire life. And so when we were,
It's
it's okay, it's not your fault. But when we went to do this movie, I was like, woods at night, I'm going to prove to myself that I can light and shoot things in the woods at night. And so like that was the spite muscle that I was flexing for
yeah.
this. And like the next movie, this movie is like all dialogue. So the next movie I direct, I want to be like much less dialogue and more camera movement, and like everything like knocks you into a new direction
Yeah.
in your own personal like filmmaking journey or whatever.
Yeah.
I love that you're so open to like exploring different avenues, because I think some people get so stuck in like one thing. And yeah, the lighting in Lizzie Lazarus is incredible.
Yeah, it looks
Which
great.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank
Well,
that was
that's
really
all
hard to do.
Tommy.
Yeah.
I will say our
Tommy Oceanic and
Tommy
also Kevin and Chi
Kevin and she, we had like a four and Alberto
and
de
Brutus, yeah.
Costacaya, like um we had like a 5-person lighting crew. Our cinematographer Tommy Oceanic is also a great gaffer, and every day we would go to our set, we would go to our location, we'd like find our stretch of the woods that we were dealing with today, and I would say okay, and they walk for like 5 minutes, and he's like, I can't do it, I can't do it. And you're asking me to light too much of the woods. We don't have the crew, we don't have the gear, we just can't do it. And I just would say, hey man, try your best. And he'd like huff off like you're asking too much of me. And then 20 minutes later he'd come back and be like, I lit it. And so
I agree.
he's great, he's a genius. But like, he I wouldn't call it a tantrum. He had like his own existential crisis every day. And the very first shot of the woods at night, there's no lighting. It's like just lit by a lantern, because of like the way we had to shoot it and the size of the shot. And so when he saw that in our like rough cut or whatever, he's like, I ruined the movie, oh my god, I didn't do it right. And I was like, no, 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 it's not colored, it's not what you lit, it's not lit at all. He's like, oh yeah, okay, I forgot. And so yeah, he saved our asses so much because I wrote a bunch of stuff that I didn't know how to do myself. But that's okay.
And
Yeah.
Surround yourself with smart people.
I
Yep.
love that that idea of just pushing yourself into new directions and trying new things. And um that's what we try to do with every project. And there's a level of being like smart about it where
Yeah.
we're not going to be like, hey, let's write like a chase scene shootout that rivals Bad Boys
Yeah.
2. Like there's definitely a limit to, but it's about being smart about every time you do a project, pushing yourself a little further and getting
Yeah.
those new skills. So I love that you did that almost as like a middle finger. Like I like a lot of what we do is
Yeah.
punk
A little
rocks,
bit.
but I love how it was just like, you know what? This is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna figure it out, and it's gonna be great.
It was also a challenge to myself. Not just it was a middle finger, but it wasn't just a middle finger. It was also just like a challenge for me to like no one could ever say to me again that I don't know how to light the woods at night.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to like just give me a minute here because I just wanted to backtrack to a bunch of stuff you had said earlier that's still in my brain.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but just about how, when COVID hit, you like we had very similar approaches, which we recognized like, okay, this has the potential to destroy us.
Mm.
We might just sit inside and do nothing and waste away and just like basically just like not doing anything with this time. And so we went the opposite direction and we went, how can we turn this negative into a positive? How can we utilize this time? And so like when I got my COVID check, I started putting that into movies and producing and helping
Hmm.
people with their projects. And I ended up over the course of the next couple of years, ended up working on the most movies I had ever worked on in my life. And
That's
then,
awesome.
So
I
amazing.
gained so much experience being on other people's sets and then seeing like what did they do right, what did they do wrong, and you learn so much more on the sets that go wrong.
Oh, that is absolutely true.
And but you get to take that information. That's free information that you're learning from their screw ups.
Mm.
And so then you don't have to make that mistake. And like how the way you made a list of you know weaknesses or things that like you could turn into something, and
Limitations,
yeah,
yeah.
limitation.
Yeah.
And we did the same with what was available to us. So you were talking about having to be outside, having to be 6 feet apart. When we went to her aunt and uncle's house in Arkansas for 4th of July, and we pulled up, and their house is incredible. They had eight
Hmm.
kids, and they built this giant house in the middle of the woods. And so right when we pulled up, I was like, we have to use this. Like the production value here,
Totally.
Yeah, this
this would
house is
cost
incredible.
millions of dollars if you wrote this. And here we have it for free. And
Yeah.
so it was like we have access to this, and we asked like, hey, let's just ask. And they were like, yeah, you can have it the week before Thanksgiving. So we had a location and we had dates. And so just like that, it was like, I think we have to make a movie
What do
now.
we do with
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know
Um,
what that reminds me of? Have you ever seen Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox
yeah.
story? It's like when he gets that look in his eye in the middle distance where you like a song is coming on and his
Yeah.
wife's like,
It's like,
"Don't write a song right
walk
now."
hard.
Yeah, it's like that's the kind of we do the same thing where we're like in a place and we're like, "Oh, what could we do here if this had to be a movie
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
Like
That's
what could we do?"
constantly
He's
I'm
always like,
constantly bombarding her with, oh, we could do this. That's a movie idea. And so I feel like for us too, we kind of figured out almost like a life hack or a loophole where we realized with our first movie, we were already going on our honeymoon to Iceland. And so I can
Yes.
Oh yeah, you told us about this.
yeah, let's shoot a movie while we're there. We're gonna be there. It's already paid for. The production value is insane.
Yeah.
Why not get a free movie out of it and learn some stuff? And so we've done that 3 times now. And kind of going forward, that's kind of our mentality is like, where do you want to go? What do you want to see? What do you want to do? Like, let's come up with a concept that fits that and go there and spend a little amount of money and film and like it's just been really life-changing and eye-opening and now like I'm constantly my brain is just always on the lookout for like opportunities. We might pass like, oh, check out that abandoned farmhouse or look at
Yeah.
that rusty shack. Let's go get a few shots. We might be able to use that in something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like, especially like coming from an acting perspective, like you could very easily live your life as an actor, just waiting for auditions and waiting for other people to give you permission to do something or
Yeah.
tell you you can do something or invite you. And I think it's so fulfilling to make your own things like that. Like you can just go out there and you can do it and you can get bigger and bigger every time. And
And
then you can bring more and more people in
I love
and
that.
just be making movies
Yeah.
instead of waiting for someone else to say like, yes, come be girl number one in the Colgate commercial or whatever it is.
It's also like the kind of non-toxic version of that like always be grinding thing
Yeah,
Yeah.
of like
Always be filming.
people in the middle of like the LA fires are posting on LinkedIn being like, what the fires are teaching me about B2B sales.
Yeah.
And it's like,
No, not that.
not that. But it's also like, oh, we want to experience, we love making movies. We also love doing this other thing, traveling in your case. And so like can we collaborate on that to do two things that are fulfilling at once, two great tastes that taste great together, and maybe one day one of these things will pay us back for all of the effort that we put into all of them.
Yeah, and speaking of like the fires, in Horror in the High Desert 3, the director Dutch used fires that were happening in the movie.
Yeah.
Benson and Moorhead in Something in the Dirt. I think they also had like fires that were happening at the time that they put into the movie.
So what we're saying is get out there and film those.
Yeah,
No, just kidding.
you could be filming right now. What are you doing talking to us? No, but what I loved what you were saying about making your own opportunities, because the way I've looked at it is, you can either not go to the party, you can go to someone else's party, or you can host the party. And
Yeah.
if you don't go, nothing in your life's going to happen, nothing's going to change, things will stay the same. If you go to someone else's party, you're going to learn some things, you're going to meet some people, but it's not your party. You don't have control. And I had been on enough sets where I was just, hey, you're going to be the stoner that gets killed, or
Right.
There's the stoner.
yeah, well,
And that's fun.
I
That's
get that.
fun enough, right?
That.
Well, you are the
Myself.
horror hippies.
yeah. But we did it to ourselves. But for being a producer, giving someone money and then having no creative control or no say. So finally coming to the realization that like we have to host the party, like we have to build it and create these opportunities for ourselves, because no one would give me that role in Old Wounds. Like we have to
Yeah,
do
right,
that for,
right.
So
And you could say
Especially
what you want to say.
And totally, I mean, speaking of roles, it's like so many things that we've written or come up with. It's like, okay, what famous person can we get to be here? And I think there are so many talented famous people. No hate to them,
Yeah.
but there are so many talented people that aren't famous.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately when people go to the movies, they're there because the story is powerful. And I think a lot of people who we don't already know can tell those stories.
yeah.
For sure.
To add what you were saying about like shooting real things, I want to shout out Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World, which is a Hungarian film that used footage of like actual protests in there. And I think Spike Lee does this in kind of a very specific way where he will use it as itself versus like working it into the movie, like you did at Bonnaroo, right? It's like you're doing the same thing with your own projects, and I think it's that I think is the next wave of cinema, is like what is real, we like are constantly striving for this authenticity and this reality. So like eventually I think we're gonna the new thing will be trying to trick people into thinking that it's all real still.
And I'm glad you brought that up,
too.
because right now it's the perfect timing, because everybody films everything. So 20 years ago in found footage, you always had to have the scene where someone goes, "Why are you filming?
Why are you still filming?"
Yeah.
Nowadays, nobody questions it, not a second. Of course you're filming. That's what everybody does. And so and it's perfectly timed with, like you said, AI and deepfakes. And that's honestly like our strategy is we are trying to offer the exact opposite. If
The
you want
realist
something
Yes.
that's handcrafted by real people, that's authentic, that's scrappy, that's what we're doing, and so yeah, we're really excited because we think found footage is about to have a huge boon in the next few years.
I think
I
you're
think so.
probably right. Yeah, you guys are great.
Yeah.
Oh, you're great.
Oh,
I was rambling and going on tangents, which, as I do.
How dare you?
We love it.
I'd love to bring it back to Lizzie Lazarus. So why don't you tell us about your amazing movie?
Oh, well, thanks. Lizzie Lazarus is about the summer solstice, 1990, and two characters are carrying a corpse through the woods, which we've talked about quite a lot in this episode. And they are going to a mythical zone that is 9 miles in the forest, and they think that if they bury the body in the zone at the moment of the solstice, it will come back to life. and these two characters have different relationships to the corpse. Lianne plays Bethany, who is Lizzie's sister, and Omar Muscati plays Eli, who is Lizzie's ex-boyfriend, because she is dead. And they don't really know each other, and so the whole thing is kind of this interrogation, questioning of each other's motives on why they're doing this, and what secrets they're keeping from each other and from the audience.
Yeah,
So if that sounds
love
interesting to you,
that.
check it out on Screenbox,
Yeah, it's such a
January
great
14th.
time. It sounds like you've done that a few dozen times.
I have done that a lot. I like black out and then say it.
Came up with the idea
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Oh boy. But I think that that's also like something that filmmakers get really good at, is like the finding the like interesting nuggets of their story to like pitch to the elevator pitch, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have
I'm
ones
sold.
for all
Yeah.
of yours, right?
So some of the decisions that went into the story, were you pulling from your personal life? Like why is it in 1990? Can you speak to
So-
some of those decisions?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
So why it's in 1990, one thing is, well, there's a couple of reasons. One project we were really inspired by is a movie called In the Vast of Night, which is
yeah.
on Amazon now. And it's like go watch it if you get the chance.
Awesome.
It's really cool. It's like mainly two characters, and it's like basically aliens come to their town.
Maybe.
And it takes place in the 50s. And so since we were in the woods, we were like, there's nothing to dress. It's the woods.
Yeah.
We
Woods
could
are woods,
be
man.
anytime. And we had found, just by like randomly searching on the internet, that we could find one article about a murder that happened in the Pacific Northwest around the summer solstice of 1990. And the article just said something like possible satanic ritual,
Involvement,
possible
yeah.
occult involvement. And we were like,
Oh
oh,
yeah, brother.
okay. And so
It-
that was why we wound up going with 1990 and setting it in the Pacific Northwest.
It felt like a really nice bit of coevolution, because we were already thinking about kind of what ritual they were doing. And then once we had committed to doing it as a period piece, we really leaned into the before sunrise of it all, of like that movie is just two characters wandering around Prague talking and philosophizing, and so it kind of gave us a good excuse and a good jumping off point to tell that story the way we wanted to tell it, which is mainly like it's about nothing but it's about everything. These two characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
And a
said it,
great-
oh, go ahead.
I would say a great avenue to talk about conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Whose influence was that?
Aliens, baby.
Well, it is wild how much the context of the year could change your story, because if it was modern day, one of those characters might just be on their phone the whole time, you know,
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
potty with one hand and checking Facebook in the other.
And one of the original outlines of it was like, okay, now we have to explain that there's no service and their
Yeah.
batteries
Yep.
are running low.
Yeah, that was like pretty early on.
Very early.
It was like early on, it was like, oh, the like second line of the script was like, I don't have service.
Yeah, and
You know,
like
that went away, luckily.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that,
So
yeah.
exactly.
It gets
Yeah.
annoying sometimes
And-
in movies when it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
how do we get rid of the
you always
cell
have to have
phones?
that scene. Well,
Mhm.
also, 1990 to me feels like, well, first of all, like when you're putting on your producer hat, that's just so smart. Like you said, hey, we could do a period movie for practically, for really cheap. If all we have to do
Yeah.
is,
I think period
you know.
cost us an extra like $300.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
like,
that's
and
that's so
that was
fun.
probably just from the car.
The car, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
probably just because we had to borrow a car that was appropriate.
And so
Borrow
that's
slash
smart,
rent.
because that's another element to your movie that helps it stand out. But also,
Yeah.
I was born in 1986, so I grew up with unsolved mysteries and aliens and ghosts and conspiracies, and it was fun. In 1990,
Yeah.
conspiracies were fun. If that was
Yeah.
said now,
X-Files.
What's wrong? Yeah, I think that that's a huge part of it, and like there are definite reasons why. So Bethany's character, Leanne's character, is the one kind of espousing all these conspiracy theories, and mileage may vary on whether or not she believes them, or if she's telling them for like a alternate motive. But I think that these are some of the I was in the we were both in the kind of the depths of COVID, and we saw all of these real life conspiracies and conspiracy theories coming back of like election denial and um the pandemic is a lab leak or a Chinese bioweapon or all this other like clearly nonsense QAnon shit. And
Yeah.
so when we were talking about which conspiracies to use, we always wanted to allude to the idea that the people that were supposed to be kind of looking out for us and taking care of us weren't, but didn't want to do it in the like Tuskegee experiment style, like this is an actual a thing that happened that
A
caused
horrific
a
crime.
horrific
Yeah.
crime against people. And but it's so weird how so our the first conspiracy, basically the first scene in the movie where there's dialogue, Bethany, Leanne's character, is talking about how Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, had like an encounter with a UFO, which is like a real thing. 1969, Jimmy Carter
It's
said
really interesting. I did a bunch of research on it after Aviv wrote it.
crazy, right?
You can
Yeah.
like watch YouTubes about it, and it's really interesting.
And so it like just so happens that both Jimmy Carter and aliens are back in the news now.
Yeah.
And so we got like
Even more
a
now.
little fortunate about when we came out, and so it's also how these things pop back up. But totally, you're like absolutely right that like the times that we're living in informed what we wanted to do, but we always wanted to be having like a little bit of fun even in like the darkest parts of the movie. We didn't want it to be like this sadness porn,
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
Yeah.
misery. to
yeah,
watch it.
misery torture porn or whatever. And so yeah, so those were some of my favorite conspiracy theories that like I don't really believe in most of them, but like they're just so fun to
Yeah.
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 Well,
Entertaining. And I love too how y'all kind of brought like a little bit of campiness to the tone, like especially with the musical number at the beginning and like just I
so yeah,
love that. Like,
hold up, because we
Sorry.
obviously don't want to ruin anything in the movie, but
it opens
that
with a musical
opening.
number. Yes.
What? So I do need to hear about how this came into being, and it's such a bold choice, and it's so memorable that immediately
Thank you.
people are hooked.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That's an Aviv baby, I would say.
It was I love music. I've been a musician since I was like 5 years old, and the song is from this band in Philadelphia that I really liked and I played with when I was in high school and college. And it always, to me, there's like a line in the movie where it says that it sounds like the end of Cabaret, and that's always kind of how I felt about this song. It sounds like maybe this time.
Mhm.
And we knew that were going to start with this dead girl in the river moment, which we've seen in like 10,000 other movies. And so we wanted to do something that was different and a little bit weird, and um like caused you to kind of ask yourself what is real.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is this really happening, or is this in her mind or our minds? And so it was always the songs written in the script. We put Megan Osterreich, who plays Lizzie, who's incredible. We put her in a freezing cold creek,
Thanks.
and she sang it, and then we like recorded her in the woods singing the song. So what you hear in the movie is her like on location singing. um and everyone, that when we tested the movie with family and friends and stuff, everyone told us to cut it.
No.
It
Wow.
confused everyone. It
It's
was
different.
so
I love
it
it.
was different. But I also think this is like totally inside baseball. We didn't have the credits over it originally. It was just the song, and people were like, did not know what to do with it. And
Yeah.
then we got a couple of suggestions. I remember one from our friend Yasmin, who's great and who's a great filmmaker in her own right. Was like, what if you did it over the credits? And I'm like a opening credits hater. I like just I don't like opening credits in movies generally, but as soon as we put the credits in, everyone started to love so I think it was just like that
Yeah.
extra little spice that like kept people engaged with what was happening. And so yeah, now it's everyone's favorite part of the movie, which is great and very validating. But yeah, it was on the chopping block a little bit. Not
Now,
I don't think we were
Not really,
not
'cause
really.
I think every time someone mentioned it to Aviv, he would come home and say to me like, "So and so said we should cut the music," and I was like, "No,
No.
I like it.
No.
Our movie.
We'll find a way to make it work."
it's
And
great to have that support system with married couples.
Totally.
Can we reveal
Yes.
as a horror hippies?
Yes, we are married.
Horror Hoopies exclusive. We are
Yes.
married. We've been married since July of 2023.
Yes.
So funnily enough, we actually got engaged while we were very early in
Pre-production,
for this. And I feel like one of the first things I said, like after being like, yes, let's get married, was we should do this after the movie, right?
Not during.
So we were like, yeah, okay, great. Movie this summer, wedding next summer. And that was what we did.
Every morning she would take her engagement ring off and then transform into Bethany.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it's such a beautiful thing to have that. We've met a lot of couples in the horror filmmaker world, and to have that collaboration on such a deep, intimate level where you can trust each other, you can pick up the slack or fill in the gaps for each other, and really just push each other. And for us, it's been magical. And we can tell with y'all, it's been magical, and obviously, it's been a great team up.
Yeah, I think it really helps build a relationship too, because you are having to work as a team and you know, figure out communication and all that.
Can I ask a couples counseling question?
Yeah.
So obviously, there will be disagreements how do you deal with disagreements when you have different this scene shouldn't be like this, it should be like this, or we got to shoot this first, or whatever the disagreement is, how do you manage those?
Yeah. I mean, we luckily have pretty different roles. So I'll handle most of the production side stuff, whereas he does more of the creative side stuff. But I mean, I've had to kind of learn how to say things, compliment sandwich,
compliment sandwich, baby.
But I think this could be, the way you word it, and you don't want to.
It's nice because she'll handle scheduling and budgeting, and I'm more of story and acting. But I guess one example would be when we were shooting the big climactic scene of Old Wounds in a barn. It was one of the last nights, and it was starting to get really late, and we hadn't eaten yet, and she was making
lasagna, and the oven wasn't working and it wasn't cooking. I was I don't know what to do. And they were all stressed because of the movie, and they were talking about something, and I interrupted, and we got into a little disagreement or argument there, but it was just okay. Everyone eat and then cool down.
Everyone
have something to eat.
It's coming from such a place of love and respect, and understanding that we're not enemies. We're in this together. We all have the same goal. So if she's trying to push us towards hey, we need to speed things up, or we need to eat or whatever, and then that just becomes a conversation. And I have to remind myself too that I've been on a lot more sets. She had never wanted to make movies. She also didn't like found footage movies at all. And now we make found footage movies. And so sometimes I have to remind myself that things I just know or take for granted, she doesn't know. And then I'm okay, I have to so there's certain scenes because that final scene with Chelsea in the barn, she is a very emotional, raw, vulnerable place. And so, that was on me as the director to build a bubble around her in a sense. And she unknowingly intruded on the bubble, but it's because I didn't properly convey hey, she needs space. So it's really just about communicating and respecting each other.
It can get hard in those really intense moments on filming because you're like in a time crunch and
But
Yeah.
there's also an element of, because we shoot things so quickly,
Mhm.
and like we do have literal deadlines. Like for Bonnaroo, Bonnaroo is only for those set
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, right.
And
You can't ask
Can't
them to
push
extend it.
Bonnaroo, yeah.
yeah, so we just have to go. Like it almost becomes you almost get in a flow state of just trusting you're doing and not really questioning things and just keep continually moving forward. And literally, we were shooting the ending of that movie at Bonnaroo um, as the sun was rising Monday
Hell
morning,
yeah.
Oh
and we're
my
That's
God.
literally
awesome.
racing the
Like we have to
sun.
get the ending.
So we don't really have a choice. It's kind of just we need to just do this.
Yeah.
But how about for yourselves with that?
Pretty similarly, I
Yeah,
think.
I was going to say I feel very like connected with what you said because I think when we get to set, we're doing such different things and our roles are quite defined.
Mhm.
And also I think I fully trust Aviv as a director and I believe in what he does and I trust his opinion. And
Mhm.
also he's, taught me a lot of stuff I know about production because I went to theater school. I didn't go to film school. And so most of what I've learned is working or, being sitting in on a class at the college I taught at, or Aviv's told me.
Yeah.
And I think because we do such different things, we're able to trust each other to do the thing that we showed up to do and like kind of um stay out of each other's way, I guess.
I mean, I think vice versa too, that you've taught me so much about acting and working with actors, because that's a thing that film school does not prepare you for. Film school is like a very interior time that you spend working on this stuff. I went to film school twice essentially. And so like I came out of it not really knowing how to work with actors. And so I think that that is the thing that I always try to remember. I don't even need to try to remember. The thing that is the first in my mind is that if Lianne does something that is like unexpected for me, if I'm like expecting her to do X and she does Y, either on screen or in rehearsal or whatever, as a producer, um, I just trust that she is doing it because she thinks it's like what is she thinks needs to be done at this moment. And if it's not what I think needs to be done in this moment, then we like have a conversation about how we are tackling the same problem in two different ways, as opposed to you did something that I didn't want you to do, which is like very egocentric and very
Yeah.
like laying the
Mhm.
blame on her versus like it's we're both fighting the dragon together.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Just remembering you're on the same team.
Yeah.
Is the most
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is huge. And people, when we got married, people thought for some reason that it was the time for them to give us like relationship advice. And
Maybe
so
that happened for you guys too.
did
I
that
don't
happen
know.
when you got married? People were like, so here's how you do it. I'm like, we've been together for 10 years. But the relationship advice that some of the relationship advice that we got when we were getting married was it's not you two versus each other, it's you two versus the problem. And I
Mhm.
think that we attack all of our productions like that.
Yeah, we've kind of always felt that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what Erica was saying earlier too, like, you know, um, what a lovely shared experience to have with your partner. I mean,
Totally.
Mhm.
most people aren't fortunate enough to be able to do this together. Most people, and I'm not trying to judge others or anything, but
I am.
they work, they might work separate jobs. They don't see
Yeah.
each other all day, and they're only spending time together at like dinner, or maybe they go out once a week, or they go on one trip a year, or whatever. That's cool. But we get this incredible experience of working together, of taking on challenges, of growing, of evolving, of learning new things, pushing each other, creation. Like it's such a wild, amazing roller coaster ride to have together.
Yeah.
And then at the end of all of that, you get a piece of art to represent
Right. Yeah. You
everything
get the
that
Yeah.
you went
yearbook
through
too
That's
together.
so
together.
cool.
And
That's so cool.
I think it's also like so great to both work in the same industry. It's like we know what each other is going through. And I feel like you guys might be able to relate on that. It's like if one of us comes home from a 16-hour day, like you know how that feels.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
like this is even early on, like when we were dating, you know, if one of us was on set for something, we knew that it was like there's some people that aren't in the industry that don't really get that it's not in your hands. You
Oh
know?
yeah. Why are you not home
Why
yet?
can't you just
Yeah.
leave?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're done? Like, why can't you go?
And
Why
there's-
don't you just tell them you're gonna leave? And like, what? No, we're not done.
Why don't you just call Taylor on the phone?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that that's huge. And there
Yeah.
is like a stereotype of the partner of the person in the industry who like does not understand the industry, who's like constantly browbeating their partner of like, you haven't made it home for dinner in 3 weeks. And we never do that with each other, which is good. I think we just really respect what each other does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, did
You're
y'all have any
beautiful.
other final thoughts or anything you wanted to wrap up with Lizzie Lazarus, which is coming out on Screenbox Tuesday,
January 14th,
January 14th.
Tuesday. Yeah,
Awesome.
check it out. Let us know what you think. I would love as you probably heard in however long this podcast winds up being, I like don't like gatekeeping any filmmaking thing or any like part of the business because I want filmmakers to be really smart with how they make films and how they sell their films. So like if you're a listener and you are interested in making a film, like reach out. I'm at Rambo Calrissian on all social medias, and like I will talk to you about making movies. I just want there to be more good movies in the world and fewer bad ones.
Same. And I'm on Instagram at Lianne O'Shea Official. And yeah,
And if you can't remember that,
slide into my DMs.
yeah, if you can't remember that, follow them. Don't slide into don't.
Good.
As her husband, professionally, yes. Otherwise, no. And if you can't remember those, Lizzie Lazarus spelled the normal way, Lizzie Lazarus. And yeah, we hope that you like our movie. It felt like a part of us when we were making it, and so now it belongs to everyone else, which feels very weird but also exciting. And
Yeah.
And thank you guys
Yeah,
for having
please.
us on. I'm so glad
Thank
we
you.
met
This
at
is amazing.
Popcorn.
yeah,
And
Mhm.
please follow them,
Yes.
like their stuff. We highly recommend Lizzie Lazarus. We both really loved it.
Yes.
I do have one last question.
Oh.
Who is the mastermind behind Lazarus?
So
Find
weird.
out if she resurrects.
So we had a group chat that
Oh my
a bunch
God.
of our friends went, like we both, first of all, we both love Chapel Roan, like
Yeah.
hardcore.
Yeah.
And like early in the summer, I remember being like, Aviv, your band should cover this song or
Yeah,
this
band,
song or
rock
this
band.
song. And then later on, we had a group chat of friends that were just like spelling out
Goofing
things
off stuff,
in
right?
like the hot to go manner.
Like hot dogs or
Yeah.
whatever.
HOT.
G-O
I don't remember.
H-O-T-G-D-O-G-S.
I love hot dogs. They're the best.
And so we just like basically played this word game with each other. And our good friend Tim, who is actually the one who married us,
Oh,
he
wow.
like loves
Like
these
officiated us.
officiated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
nice.
We're in a sister husband situation.
No.
No. He like was one of the people who introduced us and performed our marriage ceremony. And he loves these like word games and puzzles, and so we kept going back and forth with these. And then as I was doing a little Instagram post, I realized we could do it, and I did it, and I thought it got like, I don't know, 80 views. Thought it went away forever, and like people are bringing it back now like 6 months later, which is great. It's
Love it.
so funny. I'm so surprised, but it's very heartening that that people love Chapel Roan and want to find out if
Lizzie
Lizzie
resurrects.
Yes.
Well, we can't wait for your parody version of Pink Pony Club. So
You got it.
Well,
Anything
thank
for
you
you.
so much.
Yes.
Y'all are
Thank
seriously
you.
some of
You're the
most
best.
loveliest people that we've
Yeah.
met. So
Yeah.
We're
gonna-
congratulations
we're
on
gonna-
the success.
We're gonna figure out a way to work together and continue this offline.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
do we just let it run out? I think we
Yeah,
got
just
20 minutes
and
here.
now
Just
we wait.
Longer
I'm gonna stop recording.
Bye.